How's it going, everybody? Well, it's Carpo. This is January 15th, or sorry, July 15th, 2015, and this is my daily video. One of them. I just wanted to talk for a minute about light and dark. You know, last year was talking a lot about light and dark energies and the idea of good and evil, good versus evil. And I'm not a dualist. I don't believe in a dualist nature to life. But I do know that there are opposites. Yet the old saying, opposites attract, is an understatement, because the light cannot exist without the darkness to penetrate. There's these old analogies about how, you know, I've always liked the one that even the darkest room can be lit by the smallest flame. And but at the same time, that light is really only a small portion of the whole of the darkness. And when we use that metaphor when we're talking about, say, the spiritual nature of people, you get into good and evil, light and dark, Satan and God. And this morning I was watching a show. It was a Vice episode, and it happened to be about, for some reason, the Eucharist has come up like 3 or 4 times in the last day after my friend had talked about it. So I've been paying attention. I was listening to this Vice episode about sorcery in Mexico and how it really took off. I mean, it's really the only place, you know, Mexico's the only place where they really where satanic, you know, black magic is a really huge thing when it's directly derived from Satan. And it's kind of interesting, they take these characters of Satan. They even have a separate character for Lucifer, which to me is funny because, you know, in my eyes, of course, Lucifer is Venus, but it can also be a symbol of something else. Like, they're all metaphors that have many different representations. And many of these sorcerers there's black magic and there's white magic. And then there are the magicians who use black and white magic. This would be the yin and yang woven in. And after having many discussions with people over the years and listening to a lot of folks' opinions and ideas about angels and demons, it would appear that getting into the dark side gets you in trouble. And I've come to the conclusion that it's not necessarily using the darkness that gets you in trouble. It's when you're using it for personal gain, which is usually what black magic is. Wishing harm upon others or gain for the self, because you always pay a price. It should be just basic knowledge that you don't get without giving something, whether it be part of your, whether it be even your own guilt. I mean, a person could get away with stealing their entire life, but if they're not a sociopath, they're probably going to feel guilt from it. In other words, I believe that a person who's complete in their ability to see themselves for who they are and know themselves can utilize both light and dark forces in order to obtain good results. Manipulating the dark force, the dark energy, to work for us rather than against us. Not that I'm saying a person should be out there summoning demons or, you know, evil entities. You know, those things known as the jinn or the trickster, you know, the ones who come through and appear to be something they're not, you know, people who call upon, say, deceased loved ones, and they may come forward as an illusion of that person, or what a person would want to see, and people will say, but that could actually be a demon. I guess my point being that if this is all true, there's angels and demons, how are you ever really going to know whether what's being presented to you or what's coming through you or speaking through you has good or malevolent intentions? And you can't know, except for through intuition or proper practice, I guess. But I think that intuition as well as intention is a huge part of it. So what is your intention when you go into these states of mind, whether you be a sorcerer or a priest or whichever, you know, whatever position you hold on obtaining power from a dimensional force that we can't understand yet? I've gone back and forth over the years on whether these things even exist, but I've come to the point where there's pretty much no denying that there are many different forces at work out there that are not well understood by us. And I used to do these little, I had a variety of occult symbolism. I had these chalk drawings on the floor with my candles and my little setup a couple of years back where I'd go into my back room and I have my little meditations where I'd say a little prayer to the directions. And after a while, I started feeling a bit hokey doing it, as if I was just basically using other people's past, practices as my own and kind of incorporating many. And then I'm revisiting that idea. I'm setting up myself a little altar again. I have a special table and stool I made for my meditations, and I just haven't used them in a while because I guess what it is I wanted to make sure that I could trust my own senses when I got too involved in this, and I realized I didn't haven't asked any questions because I'm not ready to assimilate the answers. So now that I feel like I'm ready to assimilate those answers, I can start asking those particular questions. And don't really know what else to say about it. It's just an interesting concept to me, that light and dark necessarily aren't mutually exclusive, and that they're not competing forces, but rather one force. And the way I've seen this is through observing, even good and bad days. Whenever I have a bad day, it just reminds me I will have a good day. It's and that seems like a bad analogy, but it's really not. I keep using the wave analogy, and when I was talking with someone earlier, I realized, because somebody was talking about higher and lower self, and I used the wave analogy. Sometimes you're at a high, sometimes you're at a low, but the peaks and the troughs are both necessary to create a wave. And whether the high part of the wave and the low part of the wave, neither one of them is necessarily higher or lower in a better way. They're both necessary, they're both part of the wave. It's all about perception. What is higher, what is lower self? So when people talk about abandoning your lower self for your higher self, you're talking about excluding part of who you are. This is the same kind of thinking of trying to never be angry or abandon your negative emotions. It's really putting, I guess, as someone said, a patriarchal twist. It's a metaphorical, archetype of, I guess, anthropomorphic laws of nature. What we think the laws should be, and what is good and what is bad. It's all opinion, I guess. Much of it is opinion. One day we might have an agreement upon, some basic rules, and I think we do. I think we don't like thieving, we don't like lying, cheats, stealing. Society definitely frowns upon certain things because we know the outcome of that. But we still allow it to happen, and whether or not there's forces directing that remains to be seen, or it's just our own ignorance. I don't know. In other words, if these spirits do exist and inhabit bodies, even spirits, when you're drinking a shot of whiskey, they call it spirits. And there's a reason. It's not just a coincidence. It's because they believe that spirits could more easily inhabit a drunk body or a drunk person and then live out that luxury of being drunk, because a person who's drunk is more susceptible to allowing demons into them, or spirits. And there are many cases of exorcisms and a variety of different things out there that show us that there is something going on, and we've got to guard our senses against these things if they have negative intentions. So I think as long as a person is not desiring personal gain at the cost of anything else, you're generally going to be pretty safe dealing with these things. Anyway, mumbling now.